I've always been wanted to be that one that was there for people, when they were at their rock bottom, but I never really truly had that long. It was just entirely different, man. And it just like the right people were guiding my direction. Finally back to me, 10 times happier with the direction I'm going with my life now, and I can see it all super clear. I could before.
Welcome back to Podcast on Wheels. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and today in studio, we've got Mr. Nick Mendel. He is an artist, entrepreneur, and he is helping a lot of people find their way. Nick, welcome to the studio, sir.
What's up, Brian?
Hey, man, I know we met probably a year or so ago at an event, and I know you've been to a few events since then, but for the listeners, tell the people a little bit about your story because you're still a young man. I think, you're 26 now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about, but you've been on a fast track, man. I've been blown away. I've been impressed, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show. So fill us in, help us understand your story.
Okay, well, how much time we got? We got a little bit of time?
Let's go.
Okay, all right. So basically, I'd always been, an artist growing up. I love to do art. My mom and dad had a couple different businesses, so it was just basically like I was trying to figure out the skills I had and how I could make money from this, and how I could actually, at the time it was, to be honest with you, I was young, it was making money. Okay. So anyways, and doing something I love. So basically I decided to skip college. It wasn't for me. School was already enough for me to get through and shit. And I was teaching the teacher stuff my senior year. So I'm like, I don't, want to go in that direction. So anyways, mom and dad had this building they bought, and I was the cheap labor at the bottom. They had a restaurant down below. And, so I learned a lot of the construction side of things at that point. And then I wasn't really truly paying attention. I was doing it. I was just doing what I was being told and just kind of dealing with it. I was about 15, 16 when it was into my junior year of high school. Basically, they had this place opened up to where it didn't look nothing at all like this. It was rough, dude. I'll show you pictures later and stuff. But anyways, they're like, either you can go to college or we can pay to have you help. You can fix this place up. Here's our old printer. You start your own business. I'm like, that was a no-brainer to me. So basically I was doing that with a buddy of mine that was about my age actually now, 26. And he ended up tearing his ACL about halfway. We just had the framing up, dude, like barely had the wood up. And I had no idea what I was doing. So that basically, it's like, okay, do I want to go to school? I had a girlfriend at the time. She wanted me to move down to Indy. It's like, nah, that ain't for me. All right, we're going to figure this out. I've gotten this far and go from there. Because I could see the vision, dude. It was so clear. Well, anyways, YouTubed a lot of shit. I figured it out. I had another buddy come in, and basically we finished this whole place. So again, entirely different. So I learned a lot of stuff on those lines, and then I started the business. So I had a business partner at the time. I was doing Iconic Graphics, which again is still open now, and I'm still doing it. But basically it was all types of physical marketing. So it was car wraps, signs, wall murals, banners, all that kind of different stuff. And it was the skills that I picked up along the way. So basically I took that growing. And then, when you have a mind like mine, you're kind of all over the place, so you want to go here, you want to go there, you want to try a lot of different stuff. So I'd had a buddy, again, I was listening to all the podcasts, I was looking at different stuff, and they were all talking about multiple sources of income. All right. So I had this opportunity come up he was actually living with me at the time, and he was a damn good friend of mine. Basically I always considered him like a little brother. I'd play soccer with him. He was always the guy that, that was kind of smaller. So if they were beating on him, we would all, mainly I would gain up on the guy that was, beat the shit out of him. And right. So anyways, none of his family or anybody was invested in a restaurant. So okay, I wanted to get in the branding side of things. So basically I just did for mom and dad's restaurant down there, but doing the wall murals, the logo, the color schemes, all that kind of stuff. So the whole point with that was I had $40,000 saved up, I think it was at the time. I had a $20,000 credit card limit, and I had this restaurant we were going with. So I'm like, okay, I wanted to help them out with it. Another source of income. I can help brand it. So, like I was talking to you earlier a little bit, it's just, it was sentimental to me too. It all kind of seemed like it was lining up and different stuff. And it was where my grandpa had always went to go. My grandpa was like my biggest supporter. So he would always be the one that would show up at my baseball games, no matter what. My soccer games, he had no idea what the hell was going on, but he was there to support, basketball, whatever it was. And anyways, he had just passed away. And it was the place that he had always went to breakfast, so I saw that as a sign from God too, and it was, because it was directing me in the right direction. And anyways, it was an old bakery. He'd always went there for breakfast, coffee with his buddies, but it needed some work. It was dated. So we went through, we gutted the whole place out. I had a decent amount of an idea from this place, construction side of things. I could see the vision, Pinterest ideas here, I'm going to put this wrap here. I'm going to do this color scheme and shit. Well, this looks awesome. It's something that should be in California. So we had the branding right. I knew he was a damn good cook, so I knew that was going to go. And we had that place popping, dude. Like it was going. It was the hit lunch spot in town. And then things kind of, that was the first, rock bottom. And so basically, we let another guy get involved. That was quite a bit older. I was 22, I think 21. I was 21 when we started working on it. So I was still figuring shit out myself. I'm still figuring stuff out, to be honest with you. But anyways, we let an older guy get involved. There was about 30 or so, give or take. And he had this business in another town across. His whole point was come in, help your franchise, teach your team, all this kind of different stuff, and just kind of help you grow. Well, we had signed a non-compete. There was a lot of different clauses in there and different stuff, and I wasn't paying attention to the red lines, or whatever you call it, the red flags. You get me?
Yeah, right.
And so, anyways, they wanted to open another place, and it just, dude, I was kind of on with it at first, but we hadn't even been in business for a year, So it's like, guys, like we're not making money on this one, and neither one of them haven't had any credit. So I was gonna be the main signee on all this stuff. So it costing a hell of a lot more than what it was. It's like, yeah, I can't do this. Like we got to make sure this was making money first. And basically it was, again, my business partner at the time, he was young too. So he didn't know, he was 19 years, 2 years younger than me. And he basically saw kind of like what I've done, not along those lines, but he saw a shiny object. He saw this is bigger and better. You got me to here, but I'm kind of going to bite the hand that fed me to an extent. Like I've always been very big on loyalty. That shit hurt because I remember he had told me like one of those things I remember like spot on, man. It was like, we're cool now, but it hurt. It was, I'm not going to let you between me and my dreams. It's like, all right, motherfucker, it's like,
right.
I spent everything I had to help you build this thing. I don't even like restaurants, but I wanted to help brand the thing, build it, and use that as a portfolio for Iconic. So anyways, that was that first rock bottom. I remember I was feeling like I was on top of the world. I'd been listening to Brad's podcast and different stuff as well. And I'm like, dude, like, get me connected with these guys. Like, I'm ready. I was talking to the guy. I remember driving my truck, leaving the restaurant one day. And I'm like, I'm ready for these guys. I'm coach. I was high school head coach of soccer, something I'd always wanted to do. I was running Iconic, which had been making a little bit over 100 a year, and I had the restaurant that was popping. I'm doing pretty good. I'm 21. Like, let's get out of here and different shit. Well, right after that, dude, he's like, I'm going to humble you up real quick, motherfucker. So basically after that is when everything started happening. So, I tore my ACL in the year before, and I was just kind of going through, so I'd push off the surgery and different shit. So I'd end up getting the surgery, and then things started getting shady, and, we were shading, or we were selling, and it all happened, so I was trying to hang on there forever. And so basically after all that, we went through, I finally sold it the year after I tried to open it back up again myself, because it wasn't for me. What I'm saying? I was running all over the place, 1,000,001 miles per hour, and got past all that stuff. This is the Smart Notes version, basically. I go into detail on this stuff, but anyways, I went past all that stuff, and then I didn't know what it was at the time. I guess it was depression. I don't know entirely, I didn't know what it was. I was just like trying to figure out, like, my brain's not working how it normally was. I can't think, nothing's going on here, and different stuff. And I got involved with a therapist, and they got me on Adderall. And that was, it helped at the time, but that was probably the worst thing for me because it made me a goddamn robot, dude. But, that was, like I said, that was like 2 years after this whole restaurant went through. And I was still trying to build Iconic, I was doing different stuff on those lines. And, we were doing it and got me on a robot, but it was like, I wasn't paying attention to my emotions. What I'm saying? I wasn't paying attention to what was fully pulling me. I was almost paying attention to how can I build this? Where's the money at? What am I good at? Where am I going? All this stuff. Instead of like actually truly understand, like I said, taking a step back and like listen to where God was pulling me. Well, this last time he gave me no other option, So basically, when I met you, which was about a year ago, it was in May. I had Iconic was going. I was building the team that I'd wanted. We started doing content. I started to do stuff. I started to get myself out there, and so anyways, that was basically, it was all super clear. I was meeting the guys that I always looked out to for years. I was beating Brad. I was all this kind of different stuff. I was meeting Gary V. I was like all the stuff that I'd looked up to. Right. And then I got invited to one event. There was kind of a connection between these guys, so I thought I could trust, but I wasn't paying attention to the red flags again, and I'd really hadn't done my whole research a whole lot. I'd seen them on stage at some of these business conferences. And that was another thing what's funny is the year before I met you last year, I remember going to, what was his name? It was Keaton Hoskins, his event that he had the Limo Society. And I was seeing all these guys on stage, and I'm like, it was one of those weird feelings to where it's like, I know I'm meant to be up there. I know I'm meant to be on that stage. I'm like this close, you know, and I'm like, the only thing I need is to be successful. You know, when in reality, I've done a lot of stuff for 26. I'm still not even close to where I want to be, but I've done a lot of shit, you know, so it was almost those limiting thoughts and stuff like that. But anyways, bringing back to that story, I got me into this event that I got invited to as well. You know, I get all good advice from him. You know, it was different, but the main guy that was hosting the event, you know, it was on, again, no names, but it was on sales and leadership. And the first day, the thing I noticed the most was the main guy, you're doing a 2-mile run, you're up a hill, you're back down, you're doing military base workout shit. I brought my mom to this because she was like, what are all these events you're going to? Who are these people you're meeting? I don't know if I trust them all. You know, you spend a lot of money, like you're trying to get yourself seen, like, let's make sure this is going on. The other thing I probably brought her because, you know, she saw everything. So she was sitting up there just kind of watching and shit. And I've always called her Barracuda because she's like, dude, if someone comes after me, she comes out there with the teeth, dude, you know? And so anyways, they had this event, you know, they were doing the run, the 2-mile run, coming down the hill. And I remember looking over, you know, and I saw them get dropped off at the top. I was out of shape. There's like 500 people or so. I finished like top 5 or so. And I was like basically the first one to go back and help the guy in the back. Because again, that was on leadership standards. That was what I was taught back when I was in fucking high school. You know, you're always showing as your weakest guys. So I would always go back and help the chubby kid in the back, whether I was coaching, whether I was playing, whatever it may be, you know, and bring that up and get the whole team doing it, you know? So finally, a couple of guys came back and did shit. But, you know, I remember noticing those little red flags. You know, you got this many people working for you and only maybe 15 people come back to help the guy in the back. You know what I'm saying? So it was that. And then we went on, didn't think too much of it. You know, my mom had mentioned different stuff and she goes like, this is not who you're going to be when you have these events and when you're on this level. She said, this is the entire opposite of what I want you to be. And I wasn't really paying attention to her. I thought, Mom, you're thinking too much. Oh, you're doing your shit, you know, and stuff. And she goes, you didn't see him get in his car and leave right after the run was done. He showed face, whatever he needed to do, and then just left. And I'm like, you know, maybe it wasn't him. Well, anyways, the next day went on, the event, you know, speakers were coming on stage. You know, here I am. I paid for the VIP because that's what I was told to do, is to get you in with the network and stuff like that afterwards. Well, so I'm sitting front and center, third row, you know, I'm making sure I'm getting noticed. You know, I'm wearing my iconic shirt. It's got made to stand out a little bit on the fucking back, you know, if I don't say that enough the way it is. And anyways, the speaker's up on stage. I'm making direct eye contact, and he's preaching on God. You know, how he had done all this stuff, and he found God and all this kind of different stuff. But then one of the main speakers comes on stage, and in a room full of 500 people, he chants, let's steal this motherfucker's soul. All right, like, I'm sorry, but like, we found a different God here because that just didn't seem right to me. I wasn't thinking too much about it. I got chills at the time, but again, I didn't pay attention to the details, you know? So things went on. I noticed I was a little bit fishy, you know, kept making really weird eye contact. Like, again, that's something you do when you're on stage. You pick 3 or 4 different people to make eye contact with, you know, but it was interesting. So here I am sitting there, you know, like this, smiling, staring right back in the eyes, you know, and he was always saying the eyes are the window of the soul. And I'm like, okay, you know, I kind of agree with that a little bit and shit, you know, and so, you know, I didn't think too much of it. You know, things went on. You know, Keaton was up on stage. You know, I need one person to say their, you know, tell me about their ethos. So, you know, here's the motherfucker out of 500 people raised their hand. You know, here I am. I raised my hand, talked about it. So, you know, his guy's trying to get me signed up for his one-on-one mentorship. The other guy's trying to get me to go up there and talk to him. And, you know, so they took me up there. I was going to go talk to the main guy, but I was talking to Keaton and said, just stay creepingly, you know, walk by. You know, like Brad was up there, like the whole family, and, you know, Cam, his wife, gave me a hug, all kind of stuff. I got nothing but good vibes there. And, you know, I remember him saying, like, what are you trying to do with this kid? Like, nothing, just trying to show him around, you know, whatever it may be. I'm like, okay. You know, like, I thought the whole point was I had done a video. I talked to all this team about branding his whole headquarters. So the whole point in going out to that event was getting myself laying on that job because I saw there's so much potential there, dude. Nothing was right. You know, like I saw that I could do so much more branding there. Well, anyways, things were going. I was talking to Keaton and shit like that. Things were cool afterwards. Main guy, event went on. Well, they had the VIP afterwards. And this is where it kind of got freaky, and this will kind of make sense here in a sec. I'll bring it around one circle, and then you can talk as much as you want. So I'm doing in the Spark Note version here. But anyways, the main guy, he was standing there at the entrance, just kind of like rubbing his wrist, kind of staying offish. Oh, okay, you know, whatever. I was one of the first ones to get there. You know, one of the guys that dropped me off and different stuff. And I went up there and I shook his hand and I introduced myself because we talked on Instagram quite a bit. I thought, You know, it's like, again, like you said, probably a bot or it was AI sitting in video, all that different shit. You know, so I was on the hype. And I introduced myself, said I wanted to really brand the headquarters. I really looked up to what he built. I was going to build something like that, but 10 times better one day. You know, I loved the team that he had and everything, you know, was going. And basically 7 or 8 different people team up, shook his hand, dabbed him up, hugged him. He'd look at them for a split second, and then locked his eyes right back on me. So who's staring right back in the eyes? You know, I am, because that's how I always talk to someone, you know, when you were trying to communicate. So I'm staring right back in the eyes, and, you know, he's walking, you know, and it was the weirdest interaction I ever had. You know, I didn't think too much of it. I thought a little bit like, that was just weird, you know? Like, he was like, hey, get a hold of this guy. I'll get connected, and we'll go from there. Well, anyways, they had the VIP. The guy, again, disappeared, you know, like gone for the night. So, you know, like Brad was there, and like all the other guys were there, but like I ended up having cigars with Brad that night, talking different stuff, and met them the next morning. Well, anyways, a week after, so like I said, I got back from this whole event. I was high on life. I'd had the team that I wanted. I was ready to rock and roll. You know, we were going. I was playing branding with this guy, branding with that guy, doing that kind of stuff. And about a week after, I hit a wall. It was the weirdest thing that has ever happened to me. I was waking up with shaking anxiety. I felt like huge imposter syndrome, like I wasn't doing enough when I'd been working 24/7 at the time, basically. I lost, so like, I think it was like right there or right shortly after, I lost all my memory. I can remember events, but I couldn't remember any information that I consumed over the last year, you know, 4 or 5 years, whatever it may be. I could barely understand how to run this printer. That was it. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like I was hitting a wall here. I couldn't even do a pumpkin at Halloween. I've always been super creative. Like my visualization, like my skills, all that kind of stuff, that was all gone. Like, you know, it all made sense. It brings me back to where I'm at now, you know, and different stuff. But like, it was scary. I downplay it now, but I felt like I was like losing my soul. You know, like everybody said that they looked like this living soul was sucked out of me, you know, in which basically to an extent, you know, I've heard from 3 or 4 different people that that's technically what was going on. Thankfully, I got around the right people before this happened, but they wanted me to come out to an event in Dubai. I've been told I probably wouldn't have fucking came back from that shit. You know, and it's just like, here I am, I'm trying to get my business seen, and this stuff's going on, you know? So, but anyways, I lost my memory. I could barely say my name at the time. I had zero energy. And I was going on walks. I was trying to talk to God. I was trying to get answers. Every time I was trying to pray, dude, it was creepy. It was like lullaby, baby, or like around the rosy was going on in my head. It was like, dude, what? You know, like it was scary. So, you know, when I was talking to God, the only thing I was hearing is faith, trust, opportunity waits. That was the only thing that I was hearing in my head. And then, dude, the ideas started falling in. So basically, I've always been a very visual person, but it was nothing like this. You talk about rock bottom. I hit rock bottom already at the restaurant. At least I thought. This was a mentally rock bottom 10 times 10, you know? And the only thing that I was hearing coming in, and the only thing I was seeing was myself doing the art projects. So basically, I was getting these downloads of basically the stuff that I had learned over the years. And it was coming in piece by piece, which was really weird. You know, now that's the first time I've actually noticed that when I was explaining that, is the stuff that I learned was coming in piece by piece. And then basically I was being assigned, like I was seeing it, I was on stage, I was doing this big piece. And then basically I was teaching the other version of myself the skills, or the stuff that I've had to learn the hard way through business, through life, whatever it may be. And while also teaching them how to be creative and actually going through a prompt and uncovering those layers and the belief systems and stuff like that are holding them back. And basically I've taken all that and I have turned that into the direction I'm going now. And it just seems 10 times more aligned than anything I've ever done. I've got 10 times more energy with where I'm going with it. The vision is super clear. You know, like this piece behind me, like I literally saw that in a dream. You know, there's the kid skydiving with the God's hand underneath there trying to catch him. You know, that's tapping into your inner child, you know, before life starts living creativity idea, or the soul idea, whatever you want to call it there. And it all happens for a reason. I understand, like when I was trying to lead at the time during the summer going in, I was leading a lot from an ego based, because I'd been through a lot. I'd been knocked down over and over again. You know, I was finally on what I thought was top of the world, you know, so here I am trying to help the other version of myself, but I wasn't leading the right way. You know, I was almost reflecting kind of how this guy was leading to me, like how big you're, not right. Like actually like, let me empower you. Let me help you become the best version of yourself. So at the end of all of that, that has brought us to where we're at now. My plan is to take this business and basically help the other version of myself, teach them a lot of skills, use all of my skills that I have. So my charisma, my speaking, my energy, my creativity, all that, putting them together, doing a big presentation, and then basically selling the duplicates to the kids to where they can be creative themselves, go through the prompt, and figure out what they really want out of their life, and like get through the belief systems and something like that that's holding them back. Because like I wish I would have had something like that when I was their age. I was going against what everybody else was doing. You know, it was like, go to college, do this, here's this roadmap you have to go through to finish. And that wasn't going to make me happy. So basically being that version of myself that I wish I would have had at that age and going in that direction, and also like having all the pieces and helping just people of all ages go through something and be creative and actually uncover those layers and the thoughts and the belief systems that are holding them back from having the life they truly want through doing the art. And yeah, I mean, that's basically what got us here. So living right down from underneath me to realign me. I'm 10 times happier. And yeah, so all the dots are connected now. I just got to put it together.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say that no, I got you. First off, I want to say on behalf of all the chubby kids, thank you for coming back and getting us when we were trying to do the running in high school and middle school. So I was that guy. So appreciate you and appreciate you doing that and setting that example. And when I first met you at that event, and again, you were sitting up there, you were having conversations with the speakers, you were doing exactly what you're saying. Everything, guys, I can attest to you that, you know, there were, I think, 50 or 60 guys maybe at that event that we went to at Brad's, maybe 40 to 60, somewhere in there. And there's 4 or 5 that I still talk to possibly on a regular basis. But I remember reaching out to you while you were going through that time and you were trying to make sense of everything. And we talked briefly, and for me, it was like, okay, what all is really going on? The spiritual warfare that was happening around you and the competition for Nick. And it's like, hey, being a guy that had known you for a short amount of time, I'm like, hey, I can contribute and share. But at the same time, you got around, did you say a pastor, a priest, you got around some counselors, you got around some people that were helping you and understand, like, tell us about how, because a lot of people, man, they experience that and they turn to drugs, alcohol, or something to numb it, right? To kill it. And so tell us, why did you choose to go find help from certain people? Was it those experiences? Was it God calling you? Was like, what was that about?
I mean, to be honest with you, so a lot of it was God calling me, not knowing who I could trust at all. I didn't know if I could trust you. I didn't know if I could trust Brad. I didn't know who I could trust. Right. I just saw everybody combined. So, I had my pastor at church. That was the main one. I'd always been super cool with him. We used to work out. He was the youth pastor before. We would work out together and different stuff. And I knew I could trust him, So I was explaining all that kind of stuff to him. He's helped me through a lot. And there was a really interesting connection that I got that I truly like. I know this one was God sent even more. Is my uncle, he had always, when we talked about turning to alcohol and drugs, he actually just passed away. But he used to be a really good dude. And he still was a good dude, but he lost everything, wife, kid, all that kind of shit, and turned to alcohol. So we always called him my drunk Uncle Kenny, basically. It was my grandma's brother. And anyways, he had almost died. So he was in the hospital. And my mom, my grandma, right when I was going through all this stuff, my mom and grandma were there with my uncle. And he came in and basically was just talking about, how he had been through this. He was he was a scientist that didn't believe in God at all. He was trying to find everything that was, not to tie it to that because, there's a lot of stuff that happened in his childhood, to where he didn't believe. And he said, dude, everything brought me back to this. And he said, it brought me back to God. It brought me back to everything that was going on. It all started making sense. And I realized I was supposed to help people with the gifts that I've been given. And, talking to them about, like having ADHD a little bit, and different shit along those lines and like understanding, how to cope with that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's a superpower. I mean, it's a superpower, but there's a lot of tools you got to learn to be able to harness this thing a little bit and shit. Well, he had been talking to them and my mom was like, hey, I really think you should give them a call. And it was a lot for me to ask for help, just in general. Like I'd had that build up because I'd been used to being backstabbed and just trying to figure shit out myself. But I'm like, you know what? I've never been this low. I need someone to help me out with this stuff. So I started working with him. He was teaching me a lot of different meditations, a lot of breath work, a lot of different stuff. And just like, this was that source of light and love that I could finally trust, but was helping me find that wisdom within myself. And one of the first things he told me is like that, like, he is very connected with God, and like he feels like he was sent my way, and like all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, I hope I can trust you. You know, it's like this is my last. Like if this had happened, like I'm just, you know, I didn't see, you know.
Right.
So, but he has taught me so much along the way, you know, and you know, you reached out, Casey reached out, you know, Casey Henchman. I don't know if you know who that is. And again, like I didn't know who to trust, but like I was starting to understand, like this is what they're putting out here. This is what they're putting out here. I was going through, doing my research and different stuff. It's like, okay, if they're putting all this shit out and they're still like on the other side, and like, you know, the whole world's a lie. You know, it's like they're a damn good liar. You know, so I finally, with working with those people and then trying a lot of different stuff to get myself back to myself, like I tried everything. Like it was between acupuncture, there was a thing that I'd heard about that I didn't even know about. So I tore my ACL too during all this shit. I was finally get back to myself in January. Sport again, play basketball. It was one of those, I know there was some spiritual warfare attached there because I should not have torn my shit there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was like, it was a stupid move and it should never happen. Well, anyways, I was at rehab and like I said, I was just more or less, it was feeling like the stuff is being sent by God and then just trying to decipher what was going on, understand the patterns. And like, I'm just willing to try anything to get myself back to me. And one of my therapists, I was mentioning to her what was going on. And I can even focus, like, you would talk to me about something. I got to mention another guy that came in here in a second. But anyways, she had mentioned, I was telling her about something and like I was forgetting everything. I was like, I don't know what's going on. She goes, have you ever thought of this? And it's cranial sacral therapy. So basically what it is it's your cerebral fluid that goes between your spine and your brain. So I was having really bad problems with like dissociating. Like I was like talking to you and I was like over here. It was scary. Like it's like, what's going on? Well, she had said that mine was flowing at a quarter of the rate. I think it was less than that actually, of what it should. So basically that's letting your brain get rid of all the junk that's in there. My brain was just holding on to all of it. You know, so again, that was one of the things. There was another thing. Right people got connected. You know, there was a big case that was going on in town right when all this shit happened, basically. It was right when all this was going on. There was a case that it was happening in Delphi. I don't know if you ever heard of the Delphi murders, the two little girls that got murdered on the tracks. It was big in the news and shit like that. Like we're in a small ass town and none of that stuff ever happens. Well, anyways, a family friend that my mom and dad had known through the girls and stuff like that over the years and different stuff. He's a big news reporter in Indianapolis, and he needed a place to stay because I'm right downtown. Like the courthouse is right over there, and I'm like right in town. And they only had so many people, so he ended up staying with me for about a month. You know, he'd be in and out, and again, that was one of those sources of light and like good person and love that I needed. That was there to try to help bring me up. You know, he was constantly trying to empower me and teach me what some of these guys were doing and different stuff along those lines. And don't listen to those guys like. I'm trying to help you. Like, I'm not going to charge you goddamn time, like trying to lead that. And he's still super connected. He's going to be ordaining my fiance's wedding here in the next couple months here. And just like, it was enough of those connections to where Brian Monroe was another one that reached out during this whole time, and it was just like, now that I'm on that side, those are the people I'll never forget that were there when I needed it the most. I'd always wanted to be that one that was there for people, when they were at the rock bottom, but I never really truly had that except for my parents, especially when that restaurant happened. I had to figure all the thing out myself, you know what I'm saying? But this time alone, it was just entirely different, man. And it just like the right people were guiding my direction. I'm finally back to me. I tried a lot of different stuff. I had to spend a decent amount of money to get myself back to me. But, I know I was redirected. I was realigned. I'm 10 times happier with the direction I'm doing with my life now. And I can see it all super clear than I could before.
Yeah.
So on the drugs and alcohol and different stuff on those lines, like the first time at the restaurant, I could never get my brain to shut down. I didn't know any of that kind of different stuff. So like the only thing I could find was smoking. Like I'd smoked weed to fall asleep and process my thoughts. I would journal and write down on a wall really big all the different shit that was going on. And that was the only thing I could find. So I'm like, okay, either we can go that route and we can numb it out with Adderall like we did the first time, or we can actually try and figure shit out the right way this time. Yeah. And that's the direction I went. And like, I'm finally back to me. And I'm, like I was looking at myself even like a year ago when I met you. And like, I was still on the Adderall at that point and I cut myself off cold turkey. And dude, just the way that it numbed me emotionally and the way it made me look, I didn't realize at the time, I couldn't gain any weight. I was like stuck at 155 and I was working out and I was eating, but it was just like, it's like, dude, like, what is that doing to you long term? And that's another thing I had found is that has helped me out quite a bit too, is I've tried to go the more holistic route, nature stuff. And I'd heard about on actually Nick Hyder's podcast is he was working with the root brands. And I never heard of them before, but basically it was a natural stimulant that without all the negative side effects, it actually helped your brain get going. And that was one of those supplements that I found. I've got a whole concoction now, that finally works. It's all natural and vitamins and different stuff. But
Right.
it was one of those supplements that helped get me out of that funk. Because like their main thing was bringing you back to your most godlike state, and getting rid of all those toxins that are staying in your body and different stuff on those lines. And I'm like, okay, another one of those things. Like they're preaching this stuff. Like I really hope I can trust them, going that
Right.
direction. And so I mean, that's basically how I've gotten back to myself now. And it all happened for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm happy with where I'm at. It was rough.
Yeah. And the one thing that I want to make sure that people hear during this show today with you is, yes, you're a young man, and you've been through things that a lot of people can't comprehend. They don't understand the extent of, where you were, where you're at now, and then where you're going. But one thing that I want to make clear is, like you said, you felt like you belong on the stage. You felt like that there's more. And there's everybody that I talk to, and especially the guests on the show, the main theme that they come to me with is like, I want to be more. I feel like I'm supposed to be more. I'm supposed to help. I'm supposed to provide. They just don't know how to go about it, right? So what are some things that you're able to do on a daily basis? Like, let's say you encounter somebody at a store, or you just meet somebody, or somebody, how do those interactions go now versus the way they used to? A random meeting, or just not at an event, not where everybody's trying to, show a representation of themselves and and gain business. But how do the day-to-day things work for you now?
I mean, to be honest with you, they've always pretty much been the same. Okay. When I was on the meds, I was still being that source of energy, that emotion, that source trying to help people, guide them through the stuff that I've had to learn the hard way and different stuff. But it just being that light and that energy, at that point, I wasn't like, if someone would have anxiety, or if someone was, depressed, or whatever it may be, I'd had all this stuff built up because my grandpa was a Vietnam veteran. And he goes, don't be a little pussy, keep your balls out.
Right.
Different, they had all those different sayings and stuff, so that was how I was raised up. And again, that's one thing after all this stuff is going through all that different stuff is there's a lot more empathy behind this stuff. It's like, okay, this is how I got out of it. So let me try and help you, and it's just not have any judgment. I can't figure out, I can't not be authentic, I guess when I had the Adderall a little bit, I could hold back some stuff a little bit, but now it's just if it's up here, if it's in my, in my brain, it's coming out, I'm gonna try to make sure that it's filtered a little bit on the way and it's within good scent, but it's just, making sure that it's just I don't know, just being that source of light for someone, being that empathy that they need, just kind of helping them be here and helping them see the big picture and understand what God's trying to do in their life and where they're going. I'm not one to have verses memorized by no means. I've always had a problem when I was on the meds. I could read, I could memorize and different shit. But me, it's unless it really gets my attention, it doesn't really stick up here and different stuff. So, I'd always listen to the Bible and different stuff, but I'm going to pull this verse out here, No, it was just try and let God speak through me. Now he's speaking through me more than he's ever done. But it's just at the end of the day, though, it's just I guess to go back to your question there, it's just listening to what they're having to say, just not trying to interrupt, just trying to, again, just let them know that they're heard, and then just trying to help them out any way I can at the moment, and just smile, dude. It don't take much. The world's so much full of hate and everything. You don't take much. It just even at Brad's event, I was trying to go around and introduce myself to everybody and network, but there was no front. I'm not going to tell you I built this or this. I don't know how people do that. I can't lie. I forget what the fuck I said, so try to remember that lie and then put it all together. It's not going to happen, So it's just being the open book, being vulnerable, because that's what people need. Again, that's what, as I'm going on the stage and I'm doing this for the kids, for myself, it's they need to see that it's okay to fail. They need to see what's actually going to happen. People are in bad stuff. Your friends. I had that numerous times happen, in business and different stuff on those lines. The guy that you look up to, he's going to basically almost try and take your, it's just being that source of light and just being vulnerable and trying to impact any way I can and just hearing them out, I mean, that's kind of the way I just try and bring that energy and just a little spark of creativity, a little spark of light and love and just kind of go with it.
Yeah. So as you're looking at your opportunities now, and your business is becoming a ministry, and you're able to share and help people. When you're talking, let's say that there's somebody where you were, because I feel like we're called to help the people we were. And that's the reason we go through a lot of things in life. If you would have came to me and talked to me about, I've been married to Courtney for just over 10 years. And in the beginning of when we got together, if somebody would have told me they were depressed, I would have kind of had your grandpa's approach to it. Okay, let's be real. I was a coach. I was a baseball coach. I worked with a lot of athletes, and I was like, either you do it or you don't, kid. Like, come on. Like, let's go. But I went through some things, and I was like, well, is that real? Is this real? How does this work? And I went through some similar things to you, not quite to the extent, I will say, but going through those things and now being able to share. So what are some things that, if somebody's where you were, how would you say step one would be, what would they need to do if they're just, because I meet a lot of creative people, but they don't really execute anything, or they always have these ideas, but they don't put it on paper. They don't execute it. How does somebody do that, Nick, in your position?
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so I mean, the main thing is like, because I've always had the ideas too, and different stuff along those lines. Like, I even went through and did a whole cinema process with a buddy of mine's grandpa to put it on paper and different stuff. But the main thing is like that I've figured out is you're not going to do it alone. I mean, you can get decently, but like you don't know who's trying to take advantage of you. You don't know who's trying to help you. On those lines, you need one person that you can trust, and you can hope that person has a network. And basically, again, that's along the lines of what I'm trying to provide as well. Like, with doing the art, I'm going to do business coaching as well to help the other version myself. So basically, it's just like, again, finding those people you can talk to about the problems you're going through that have actually experienced it, and then bringing them back, and helping you out. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, so that helps, like Brad's I'd listen to, since I started business. And mainly it's just like, you got the idea. It's like, understand what your skill sets are. Okay. If this is truly, I don't know, you can chase money all day long, but that's not going to lead you so far. It's going to get you some point, and at some point that plateau's going to hit, and then you're like, okay, what's next? But if it's like truly from your heart, and you understand that you can help people with it, like, that's being guided. So it's just like, bring that idea down. Okay. How do I put this in paper? Because you got to make money. You got to survive. And I've always had expensive taste too, and I like nice stuff, and I want to help people with the money that I make. So how can I make money with this? Am I where I need to be? Do I need to fix my mindset? Do I need to fix my belief system? Do I need to heal this, whatever it may be, to get me that spot, and then keep it moving? And having someone that's holding you accountable. I mean, I've always thankfully held myself accountable, but during this time, I needed someone to hold me accountable more than I had done before. So basically just having that person that holds you accountable, having that network of people that you can actually talk to and be vulnerable with and aren't going to judge you. And like one thing I've heard over and over and over again is someone that's doing more than you, someone that's more successful than you, is never going to undermine you when you're trying, and is never going to undermine you when you're actually seeking for advice. So basically just finding those people that have dealt with this stuff, like, again, that's what I'm trying to be for these people as well, is on the business side of things and life. Like, I've experienced a lot of shit at 26, and I know God has given me this direction to go. So just basically bringing all that together. And again, like, my mind's all over the place here, so I'm trying to get back to your answer and shit, but it's just like the main thing I've noticed, especially in this last year, is how much I've grown. My business has grown. Like, again, I'm not making or even close to where I want to be with this art, but having people around you with big aspirations, big ideas, and like actually they know how to bring that stuff into existence is going to get you 10 times farther than just having the idea, talking with your buddies, and really not bringing anywhere. I mean, I guess that's common sense, obviously, but it just
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop you. It's not common sense. It's not. It's not. People struggle with that. Well, I mean, brother, you're killing it. It's not common sense.
I wish too. Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing too, is like, I've always been in a small town, so like what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go is like unheard of. Nobody talks about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this kid's crazy, he's whatever it may be. So when you find those people that you can actually connect with, you can talk to about where you want to go, and aren't putting you down and they're trying to guide you in the right direction, like, it makes things a lot clearer. So I mean, that's, again, like, I've done all sorts of different shit. Like, when it comes to bringing it into life, like, I mean, I'll take, Brian, I'll take a 4x8 poster material banner, I'll put it on the wall, and I'll just write down all my thoughts. I'll try and organize it. And it's like the Disney synergy map. You ever seen one of those?
Mm-hmm.
So you got arrows coming from here, you got arrows coming in here. How am I going to bring this all together? And then starting to square one, but the main thing especially during this time that I've noticed the most is I've worked more on myself. I've done that before on my mindset, different stuff on those lines, but like not killing myself when it comes to inside the business. There for a while, when I wake up, I would work the whole day and I'd go sit with my thoughts for maybe an hour and then I would go to sleep, repeat the cycle. But I'd work out in between different shows on those lines, but there was no meditation. There was no working out. There was no taking a walk. There was no date nights. There was none of that kind of stuff. And it just like, I don't know. I feel so much more level headed now, saying so much clearer. And like everybody's preaching this hustle culture, like grind. Don't look up until you're 40. You got all this money. Like I ain't gonna live like that. Like I've grinded enough to this point, but at the same point, like you got to understand when you need to take a step back and assess everything from like that $30,000 view. It's like, hey, am I going in the right direction? Am I aligned with my core values? Am I aligned with my life? Is this where I want to go? What skills do I have? What do I need to work on? And dissecting that, and then actually holding yourself accountable, just the little simple stuff every day. It just, again, at the end of the day, I'm trying to put all that into like one big process for the entrepreneurs myself. But it just, at the time, all I had was my parents to look up to listen to them. And I love them to death. And they're very successful in the small town, but they're not even like, it's that kind of comfortable. They built the house. They funded me. They kind of put me through college, whatever it may be. Like, I want more than that. I want to help more people in that. I want to build something better. So it's like getting around those next level of people to get you in that right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I do want to share this. I don't know
if I really answered your question. I came back down full circle a little bit there, but.
No, we're good. But the one thing that, I sent to a friend of mine the other day, because that's something that I struggled with. And I heard one of our preachers that we go to different churches and different things occasionally, but one of them said that when you truly trust Jesus, you can rest. And just being able to go, okay, like I've got up this morning, I prayed, I followed God's plan, I listened, I'm doing everything. Now I can rest. And I don't mind taking a nap during the day anymore. I don't mind, like, if things are off, if I'm off, if I feel off, if something's not right, it could be 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Courtney will come in and I'll have the recliner in our home office with the feet propped up and I'm laid back like this. I think I did it yesterday for about 20 minutes. And she comes in and tasks me. She goes, hey, that CRM we got to have? I said, not right now. Not right now. I can't. Because I acknowledge where I'm at, right? So you have to understand yourself. And that's what I'm hearing you say is you did such a great job of when you were in that low spot, you worked on you and you found people that you could trust to get you there. You didn't point the finger and say, well, this guy said this and this guy said this and blame, so many people. That's why I said that's not common sense, bro. So many people would rather say, well, back 10 years ago, this guy did this, and that's why I'm here, or 5 years ago, etc. But you did mention in there, you said you've got a fiance. When are you getting married? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. So, kind of, okay, bring it back to the field. Okay, I'm trying to figure out because there's a lot of stuff I want to hit on there. So, The first thing, fiance, we're getting married in October. I'll go into that here in detail here in a second. Yeah. But anyways, when you mentioned that, finally being able to rest. Like that hit because it was always grind, trying to get myself seen, trying to get all that kind of stuff. Now I know what I have to offer. Now I know who I am. Now I know, and I've never felt like I've got God's hand on me now, like leading me in the right direction. Then I dude, what I'm saying? Like before it was like trying to get myself seen, trying to create the opportunities for myself. Now it's like knowing those opportunities are coming in and picking which ones are aligned with the directions I want to go with my life and the directions I know God is sending. It's not even like really it just happens to all toe a line. It's like what I'm doing at, what I love to do. And it's what I feel like the vision was super clear, on where to go. But it's just like protecting that piece, protecting your energy and not spreading yourself too thin or all over the place. So that way you can be the best version of yourself when the right person needs you, And when it comes to the right person needing you, yeah, like Maddie, she had been with me from the restaurant, I'd been in a relationship in high school. And I, it was very toxic and shit on those lines. We got out of that stuff and I went on a little phase there, had some fun, whatever you want to call it there, and she was one of those, she came over showed up in a goddamn snowstorm to spend an hour with me, and she had to go home because her dad found out that she was out in the snowstorm. She had to get home. All right, so we just talked. We sat there and talked for an hour. It's okay. There's something different about this girl, and it was just kind of like I was painting a picture, and I was the lines, like the dots, and the name was Maddie. When I was a little kid, I had a girlfriend that was named Maddie. I was like praying to God. I saw a shooting star. I'm like, please let me marry Maddie one day. Yeah, different Maddie, but and all. And my grandpa also, he would always go to AmVets, so it was like a veterans bar, but he wouldn't drink. He would just play the slots and like smoke cigarettes with the guys and shit. And her mom was a bartender there. And he was always talking about her, and like I was doing the senior banners for like her brothers and stuff like that. And he goes, hey, such and such was talking about all this different stuff. I had no idea that they had a sister, they had a daughter, whatever it was. And I remember, this is funny, and her mom knows about this. It's hilarious. But I was doing a senior banner, and she was in cross country. My dad always told me to look at the mom because that's what she looked like in 20 years. Her mom came up and gave me the check. And I'm like, whose mom is this? That was before she'd show up in the snowstorm, all kind of different stuff. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I'm Maddie's mama. All right, And then it all kind of connected the dots. Well, anyways, again, she was with me when I lost her name at that restaurant. She came in basically right when I was first starting to get open. So she saw like kind of stuff. She was at school, so we talked all the time. She was like a weekend warrior. She'd come home, we hang out on the weekends, go back to school, and when all this stuff happened, is basically I had to get everybody else out of my life. But she was the one that stuck around. I went through a lot of shit. I went a little crazy during the summer there too. Like I was not aligned. I had a thing to where it was still a decent idea, but it wasn't lined up with my morals and different stuff on those lines. I didn't know where I was going with it. It was like, I don't even know if I need to get into the detail, but it wasn't aligned. It was a video idea, and I'd had basically realistically 25 girls signed up to go on the roof and do a branding thing and like advertise and basically help them learn how to make money in 2025 as a female entrepreneur. I had good intentions behind it, but it still wasn't aligned. And there's a lot of different, not little different stuff, but like I said, when everything hit, it just like I had to get rid of everybody. Well, she was the one that stuck around, and I remember there was numerous people that asked, well, what happened to the fiance? So my dad would be saying like what was going on, different stuff on those lines. Oh no, she's still around. So it's just like, there's like, okay, I proposed to her during that summer when I was going crazy a little bit to an extent, because I was finally getting seen. I was trying to get myself out there, but I wasn't lined up with that moral compass deep down. I was all over the place. And yeah, so that's that. Technically, I can see her out in the background there. She's down from work, and so yeah, so I mean, she's been alone, and I brought back one of my other workers that I had. I'm about to bring back another one possibly at some point, but it's just like I had to do an entire reset. And that was that structure, that was that base that I had the whole time, so it just like, she was sticking with me for that, like when I'm finally successful, all kind of stuff, like I want to bring her with and build together instead of, like just doing it alone. What's the fun of that?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, bro, because as men, we need that though. We need to know that our wife, spouse, fiance is where you're at, has our back and is willing to go to hell and back, literally, with us. And you guys have already gotten to experience that. So kudos to her. And that's awesome for you. So as we kind of draw to the conclusion here in the pod, you being on stage, you talking more, like what are some things, because what are some things that you have planned? What are some visions you have? What are some things that maybe where am I going to see you on stage next week? Are we going to, what is it, Utah? Is that where Keaton has his Limitless at his house there? I mean, are you going to be a part of that party? Because I did talk to him about bringing the studio. That's just 28 hours to tow this thing. So we couldn't logistically get it done last year. I wanted to take the studio. I mean, why not? I wanted to see if Shaq fit in here.
Cool shit, yeah.
But yeah, we'll get it out there soon, I hope. And Sean Whalen, who's just up the street from Keaton, we're talking about trying to get the Lions Not Sheep, and we've talked a few times about getting him in and getting over there. So, but where am I going to see you on stage first? And tell us what does that look like? What are you going to do? Because I know when you say it and you see it, it's going to happen. It's according to the timing. So what do we see you doing?
So that's another thing on that matter of the timing. For this quote recently, it made sense. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So that's basically where we're going now. So basically this came to me, like I knew I didn't even go on stage. Like all that kind of stuff. I see myself on stage. Well, about 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'd heard this thing about Bob Proctor, basically just kind of talking about envisioning the life that you want before you go to sleep. And it kind of helps rewire your subconscious, different stuff on those lines and brings it to life. Well, when you have a brain like mine, you can't fucking sleep. So I did that one night and everything was clear. So where I'm going with it next is my plan is to basically do this piece. So this will be the jump piece, but it's going to be 4x8, so like huge. And it'll be like the one that I have on my store or my Instagram and stuff on those lines. So, and basically doing an hour presentation for high schools. And so basically teaching the universe myself a lot of stuff I had to learn the hard way. So not being afraid to take that jump, not being afraid to take the risk on yourself, no risk, no story, like a lot of different quotes along those lines, catching a motherfucker on fire and like when God catches your life on fire, like sometimes you just gotta change your perspective, different stuff on that. So that way, I could get up here on stage, I could probably speak, but this is an entirely different thing that I've never seen, to where it's interactive and basically at the end of all that. So again, talking about, like you're always told, you need to fit in when you're in high school and all that different stuff. If you don't fit in, you get made fun of. Thankfully, I never got made fun of because I just did right back to them and shit. But, the whole point in life as you're going up is to stand out, to figure out what truly your God-given gifts and take those, harness those, and don't play small, and basically taking a lot of that kind of stuff, bringing it all in an hour-long presentation, and then going up on stage and then doing it and then basically having the blanks for sale in just a poster version. That would be able to help the kids go through a prompt of helping them get past those self-limiting beliefs, the thoughts that are holding them back, whatever it may be, and figuring out what that truly is on the inside that lights them up in their heart instead of in the brain of what they've been told, like really diving deep within and figuring out what's guiding them in that direction. So basically, again, like going to the schools, doing the speech, and then have an hour-long presentation, making it interactive, making it fun, use my personality and like being able to be that hand that's kind of close to their age a little bit, reaching down and showing them it's okay to fail. Like I've fallen on my face a couple times, and I would have never thought I'd be up on stage speaking to you guys right now, but it's just like, and then bringing, God and influencers and like everything that I've had to learn hard way, the restaurant, everything all in 1 hour presentation. And then, yeah, like that's where I'm going to start. So then basically I got 2 schools that I can already get in. I know no problem at all that I've done work for. And then basically get video of that and then just kind of seeing where things go. As long as it's aligned in the different stuff, I know I'm going to perfect the message. There's this time, like in front of kids. So if I mess up a little bit, I'm going to mess up as I'm going. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But, I perfect the message in front of the younger version of myself a little bit. And then basically that'll just bring in bigger stages. Like my goal, I'd love to be on the stage when he has the next limit a bit. Or Brad's got in a bit, or different so those lines, just something different than someone sitting up there on stage speaking, pumping themselves up about everything, I got, like that kind of different stuff, like actually inspiring, impacting through a new way that's a visual aspect instead of just watching a video and hearing someone speaking. Yeah. So that's where I'm starting with. And then who knows what we're going to do after that. But again, the picture's clear. I can see everything. I can see the tarp underneath. It's all wrapped. I can see the QR codes for the kids to scan and follow. I can see the way I'm going to introduce myself going in there. And now I just got to basically put the message, make sure I'm hitting all the right points, and then just get it going.
Yeah. And so if people want to find you, I was trying to pull it up here, if I can get it on there, _ Nick Mendel, right? And it says it right here, entrepreneur, create your own path, helping individuals and businesses stand out. I mean, I'll tell you this now that we're towards the end of the show. When I met you and we talked and then you started going through things and we were communicating, it was like, okay, when the time's right, I want to have him as a guest because I want this to get out. And I want to say that I applaud you. I'm proud of you and the things that you've been able to accomplish. It's been gratifying to me. And I say this to Courtney a lot of times, when I can see the younger guys already getting through it, then I know the world's going to continue to be better and we're going to continue to grow and help people. It's like, hey, because there's a lot of, people we talk to and I'll tell you this story because I think you'll feel this one. I talked to a guy earlier today and he told me he got to take this trip to go play like an exhibition baseball game in front of some people. Well, the main reason they were going to play was to share the gospel with this town. They were in another country. They traveled to go play. And his friends told him, said, hey, we didn't invite you on the first trip because of how you used to act when we played. Okay. Like he would fly off the handle. He would get upset. And he said that he goes up in this game against a pro team from this country. And he comes up, runners on second and third, 2 outs. They're down by 1. And he said they change pitchers. And the kid comes in going, whap, 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 just lighting the mitt up. And he goes, whoa, what is this kid? He's 17. He played in the World Baseball Classic last year. So, names are irrelevant here. But he strikes out, and he snaps the bat across his leg. And the guy that was on deck as the game ended looks at him and goes, that's why we didn't bring you last year, right? You can't do that in front of all these people. So he gets up and talks in front of the 300 or 400 people that are there watching and the other players and stuff. And he gets a microphone and he says, I've just made a mistake, but God's grace is sufficient for even a guy like me. And he said 24 people that night came to Christ. And it's like, even though we make our mistakes, you've done things happen. God has a purpose. God has a plan in that. And if we continue to try to do the right thing, those things are going to happen for us. And I see that all over you, bro. Man, I just see it. I feel it. I know it's there. And, this may be, me looking at the future and stuff, but to see that you're getting married, you're set, your place looks phenomenal. Everything you do. And you're right. You like nice things. You look good. Everything looks good. Everything's, aesthetically pleasing, but there's so much more to you. And that's what I want to get out of this show. So as we wrap up here, Nick, just, briefly tell us, like, what is something that we should know about you that people don't know? I like to throw this curveball right here at the end. What is something that you like to do outside of painting, drawing, creative, speaking? What's something kind of behind the scenes you like to do that helps you?
Thank you, Brian. Like I appreciate that, dude. And yeah, the visual aspect, but yeah, the curveball. I would say, I love playing sports. I love playing, baseball. We can get together like on Friday nights, play same lot ball. Talk a lot of junk, steal some bases and just kind of have some fun with it. But, I turn my knee, I'm kind of out of that. So, like, realistically, that would be the main thing, like, fiance and I play some Mario Kart, like trying to impact the younger version myself. But the main, the main thing is just getting active and just being around people and just trying to impact them any way I can. Like, when we play baseball, we bring a lot of the high schoolers up and just basically, like, it's a small town, so a lot of people would know kind of who you are and different stuff. So, like, any advice I can give in between there, that's the main thing, dude. Like, I don't have a lot of hobbies, but it's like just my hobbies kind of, with the art and the work and different stuff along those lines. So yeah, that's the curveball would be, I like to, play a little ball every once in a while, like even though all the stuff is going on, I'm like, what would make me happy? I ain't thought about trying for the Savannah Bananas there for a second, just like shit like that. So yeah, man, just get myself around like-minded people, playing some ball and just having fun just in general, man. I would say that'd be the main thing behind all of it. And, like I said, I heard a little bit of what you were saying there. It was coming in bits and pieces. The place, thank you. I'll show you some more pictures and stuff like that. I've always been a very visual guy, so I like the vibe of everything. And, yeah, I just, again, when everything was rough, you were one of those guys that was there to help me. So I really appreciate that. And I didn't reach out enough as I needed to. I didn't want to be a hindrance and different stuff on those lines, but, like, I consider you a friend. I consider you a mentor. Like, I appreciate everything you've done, Brian. And yeah, so that's where we're at there, dude.
Well, Nick, I do appreciate that, bro. And as we wrap up, because I do see your fiance's there, and you'd rather be talking to her than me right now. I do get that, but yes, sir. Thank you so much for being on the show today, bro. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, dude, no problem. Thank you for having me, man. This has been a blast. Right. I love it. I hope to do another one some point, and we'll go from there. When I have one, Brian, I'll have you on there, all right?
I can't wait, bro. I can't wait. Guys, thank you for watching Podcast on Wheels. And if you got something from Nick's story, comment below. Reach out to him on Instagram if you're looking for some encouragement or you're a creative type person and you're trying to put things together. Reach out. This guy's here to help. And if you're looking for somebody to come speak to your high school group or to teach some art and do that, this guy can do it all. So thank you guys for watching Podcast on Wheels.